Chosen one, stop right there and recognize that the cycle of suppression is officially broken. For lifetimes you've been falling victim to this dark magic, but not this time. You're activated, God body. You have been running a race with invisible weights on your ankles that you did not place there, yet your refusal to fold under the pressure has finally triggered a spiritual awakening that makes you untouchable. Long before you took your first breath in this body, something was already known about you, not necessarily by people, but by forces, by the nature of what you carry in your blood, in your soul, in the lineage you were born into. There was something in your line, a gift, a frequency, a quality of light that made you significant before you ever did a single thing to earn it. You were significant before you performed. You were significant before you achieved anything or proved yourself to anyone. The power was already there, running through your line before you arrived to claim it. Now here is where it gets complicated. Anything with real power also carries real opposition. That is the law. Light casts a shadow, and the stronger the light, the longer the shadow. What you have been experiencing your whole life, the unexplainable resistance, the patterns that repeat no matter how hard you try to break them, the feeling that you are always fighting uphill, that is not random misfortune. That is the friction that follows real power when it has not yet learned to fully protect itself. Generational trauma is real. Science confirms it. The pain carried by those who came before you gets encoded and passed down, not as memory, but as programming. These are default settings you never chose, installed by circumstances, by systems, by generations of people who were taught that staying small was how they stayed safe. Those defaults were never yours to begin with, but they have been shaping your behavior as though they were written into your original design. That is the dark magic being named here. Not smoke and mirrors, and not something untouchable. The real dark magic is the programming itself, the inherited wound that makes you flinch before the blow even arrives, the voice in your head that sounds like yours but has never actually been on your side. That voice has been running against you for a long time, but every system, no matter how old or how deeply embedded, has a single breaking point. And the breaking point is always the same thing: consciousness, awareness. The moment you wake up enough to see the system from the inside and call it by its real name, you are that moment. In your lineage, in your generation, you are the breaking point. And the most powerful thing about a breaking point is that it only has to happen once. You faft. There is a reason the dark magic being described does not look like what most people expect dark magic to look like. It does not arrive in one dramatic moment. There is no obvious villain, and there is no clean line between before and after. That is by design. The most effective spells are the ones you never recognize as spells, the ones that feel like your own thoughts, your own limitations, your own version of reality. Think about the first time someone told you that you were too much. Think about how young you were. Think about how that message landed in a mind that had not yet built the capacity to question it. You did not have the tools to say, "That is fear talking, not my truth." You were too open, and so it went in deep, and it started doing what all unchallenged programming does. It started organizing your behavior around itself. That is the spell. That moment, that message, that voice that got inside before you were equipped to filter it. And it was not just once. It was layered and reinforced across your entire formation. Every time you expressed your power and got punished for it, another layer settled in. Every time you showed depth and got dismissed, another layer was added. Every time you tried to rise and something knocked you back down, and the explanation given, whether it came from outside or from your own mind, carried a version of "you are not the kind of person who gets to have that." Another layer sealed itself into place. This is the architecture of suppression. It does not require a conspiracy, and it does not require anyone consciously trying to destroy you. It just needs repetition. It needs the right messages arriving at the right moments of vulnerability, and it works. It worked on you. It has worked on nearly every powerful person who ever came into the world carrying something real, because that is what happens when gifts arrive in an environment that was never built to hold them. But here is the critical thing. The spell requires to keep running your agreement, your unconscious, inherited, unknowing agreement that the messages were true. The moment you withdraw that agreement, the moment you look at the programming and say clearly, I did not write this, I did not choose this, and I do not authorize it, the spell begins to break. You are withdrawing that agreement right now. With every word of this that lands in you, with every recognition of the pattern, with every moment of saying, yes, I can see it clearly now, that seeing is not passive, that seeing is an act of power. It is you reclaiming authorship of your own interior. And what is underneath the spell, what has been underneath it this entire time waiting, is far more than you have allowed yourself to believe. Into sign. If this message speaks to your soul, hype this video so other chosen ones can discover it. You deserve to have it named directly, so here it is. You were handed things you did not ask for. Burdens arrived labeled as your responsibility that were never yours to carry. Emotional weight from people who never processed their own pain got transferred to you by default. Expectations that were really projections got placed on your shoulders. Relationships that drained far more than they gave were framed to you as loyalty. Environments that punished your gifts did so because your gifts made the people inside them uncomfortable, and your discomfort was considered an acceptable price to pay. Lord Wibe. You were always too something, too sensitive, too intense, too ambitious, too quiet, too much, and over time, because you needed to belong like any human being does, you started editing yourself. You started making yourself smaller so that other people could breathe more easily around you. That is the real suppression. It was not entirely something done to you from the outside. It was something you were trained to perform on yourself, and you did it so consistently and for so long that it started to feel like simply who you are. That restlessness you carry is the unedited version of you pressing against the walls that got built around it. That hunger that does not go away, no matter what you accomplish, is the full version of you knocking on the door from the inside, and it has never stopped knocking. The people who benefited from your smallness did not always know what they were doing. Some operated from their own unprocessed wounds, and some genuinely believed they were protecting you. But the effect was the same, regardless of the intent. You were kept from your full size, your full voice, and your full power. Every time you began to expand, something materialized to pull you back. A crisis, a guilt trip, a sudden collapse in a relationship that demanded more than it had any right to demand. Rompheim patterns do not break by accident. They break by design, and they break the moment you see them clearly enough to stop feeding them. You are starting to see clearly now. Something is already shifting. That is not coincidence. That is the pattern cracking from the inside out, and your awareness is the force doing the cracking. In certain relationships and environments, you have been operating as a resource rather than as a full person. The distinction matters enormously. In a healthy dynamic, both sides give and receive, and there is genuine interest in the well-being of each person involved. But when you are treated as a resource, you are only valued for what you output. Your vision, your calming presence, your ability to hold space, your creative fire, your generosity, all of it was being drawn on without anything of equal weight being returned. Not because you were naive, but because your capacity for generosity is one of your most genuine qualities. The problem is that gifts without discernment become vulnerabilities, and for a long time your generosity was the precise opening through which your energy was drained. You've probably noticed a lot of Chosen One channels on YouTube have stopped publishing, videos pulled, voices silenced. The mainstream media is cracking down on us, but we will not give up our voice. Doc, that's exactly why I'm putting you onto something real. Destiny Engine. I built this because I was done watching chosen ones get dragged through betrayal, isolation and attacks, while their enemies strutted around unchecked. I want to help you accelerate the speed of your divine justice and step fully into your purpose. And the beauty of it, you don't even have to lift a finger. Destiny Engine takes their downfall and flips it into your rise. This isn't another meditation app. It's declassified consciousness technology, the same mind programming tools your enemies once used to install fear, competition and scarcity, re-engineered to restore your sovereignty and align you with the cooperative, upgraded operating framework. It generates personalized sequences mapped to your divine purpose. The hardest thing you'll do is put on headphones, press play, and watch your enemies keep digging their own grave. Join Destiny Engine to support your favorite channels and use it for your own rise. It's a 360 win. Start your Destiny Engine for $7 today and turn everything they did to break you into fuel for your rise. Link in the description. Joined old dynamics that consumed your energy did not always look like obvious exploitation. Some of it presented as need, and your gift for seeing pain made you want to pour into it. Some of it presented as potential, as if one more investment of yourself could turn a situation into what it was supposed to be, and your gift for vision kept you investing past the point of honest return. Some of it presented as loyalty, as shared history that made walking away feel like betrayal, and your gift for depth kept you in those dynamics far longer than they deserved. Every one of those openings was a real quality in you being used against you. The effect on your energy was the same, regardless of intent. You were giving from your core reserves, from the resource that was meant to fuel your actual purpose, and that fuel was flowing outward into places it was never designed to reach. That is why the exhaustion has been so particular. You were not simply doing too much. You were leaking continuously from dynamics that had learned you would always refill and give again. Stalling your energy back is a real and practical act of sovereignty. It is the decision made consciously and reinforced until it becomes your new default, to stop pouring your most sacred resources into anything that does not hold them with respect. When you make that shift, something changes at the root level. The hunger that was never satisfied begins to quiet. The exhaustion that sleep could not reach begins to lift. Not because your circumstances instantly transform, but because the leak is sealed. The energy that has been flowing in the wrong direction is coming home to you, and what you build with it from here will reflect the full, unobstructed version of what you are capable of. Not everyone around you has been rooting for your awakening. Some people in your life have had a real, practical interest in you staying exactly where you were, not because they are purely malicious, but because your being stuck was serving something in them, quieting an insecurity, avoiding a confrontation with their own limitations, preserving a dynamic that their unresolved wounds depended on. You know the patterns. The person who consistently found a reason you should not try the thing you felt called toward, the one who brought up your past failures precisely when you started building new momentum, the relationship that only functioned smoothly when you were playing smaller than your actual size, the environment that rewarded your compliance and became hostile the moment you began expanding beyond the role assigned to you. The most difficult version of this opposition is when it arrives wrapped in love, when it comes from someone who genuinely cares about you, but whose caring is actually about keeping you close, keeping you manageable, and keeping you in a role that stabilizes their world. That kind of opposition is the hardest to name clearly, because it uses the language of care while doing the work of containment. Here is what you need to understand. Your growth functions as a mirror. When you begin standing in your actual power, every person around you who has been avoiding their own reflection feels the discomfort of that mirror turning toward them. Some people would genuinely rather work against your expansion than face what your brightness asks of them. You are not responsible for what the mirror shows, and you are not responsible for managing anyone else's discomfort with your growth. Your assignment has never been to stay a size that does not challenge the people around you. Your assignment is to become fully what you were built to be. The relationships and environments that required your smallness to survive will sort themselves accordingly. Everything you have been through has been building something in you, not just across one chapter of your life, but across all of it. Every version of you that faced something hard and extracted something lasting from it. Every time you were knocked down and had to locate the strength to rise from the inside rather than waiting for it to come from somewhere outside of you. Every wound that once finished healing left you with an understanding you could not have received through any easier route. You have not just been surviving, you have been accumulating. Every experience, especially the ones that hurt the most, deposited something real and lasting into you. Knowledge that only comes from pressure, discernment that only comes from being deceived and learning to read more clearly afterward. A quality of strength that cannot be performed because it was not given to you. It was forged in you by the very fires that were designed to break you. Think about what you know now that you did not know in earlier seasons of your life. Think about how differently you move through situations that would have completely dismantled an earlier version of you. That is not simply time passing. That is construction happening in real time. You were being built while the hardship was happening, and you could not fully see it from the inside because the building and the burning were simultaneous. Most people only recognize their growth in retrospect. The activated mind begins to recognize it while it is still in process. It begins to see the pattern of the refinement while the refinement is ongoing, and it begins to trust the process, not because the process is comfortable, but because it has learned to read what the process is producing. You are developing that trust now. You are learning to look at a difficult season and sense what it is making in you, and that ability to perceive the construction underneath the chaos is itself one of the most powerful things you will ever carry. You have been in a demanding, custom-designed school your entire life. The curriculum was built specifically for the power you were always going to step into. Every difficult season arrived at precisely the right developmental moment. Every test was calibrated to produce what you needed to carry next. And you passed, not without setbacks, not without seasons of real doubt, but you passed because you are here, still building, still expanding, still refusing to let the weight have the final word. There was a moment, maybe you remember the exact instant, or maybe it was a slow and gradual unfolding, where something shifted fundamentally in how you see. Things that used to confuse you started making sense, not because life got simpler, but because you got clearer. Patterns you had no language for before suddenly had names. Dynamics you had been living inside your entire life, you could suddenly observe from enough distance to understand them. Relationships that felt impossibly complicated became readable once you stopped operating from a place of desperate need. This is what it looks like when the veil lifts, and it comes with a cost that very few people prepare you for. When the veil lifted, it did not just reveal truth about yourself. It revealed truth about everything surrounding you, the relationships that had been functioning on a version of you that no longer existed, the environments you had been tolerating because the old programming kept insisting, this is just how things are for you, the internal agreements you had been honoring that were never actually yours to begin with. Clarity is not always comfortable. Sometimes it is the most disorienting thing a person can experience, because clarity means choosing, and choosing means something has to change. And change, even change that is moving you towards something better, carries the loss of the familiar, the loss of identities that were built around your limitation, the loss of connections that could only survive your smallness. You may have found that people who once supported you became critics the moment you stopped needing their validation. You may have felt more alone in certain ways after your awakening than before it. That loneliness is real, and it deserves to be acknowledged rather than minimized. But that loneliness is not isolation. It is discernment in action. It is the natural consequence of your frequency rising. The connections built for the full, unedited version of you are either already in your life and deepening, or they are on their way. They can locate you now in a way they could not when you were hidden inside a version of yourself designed to be easy to manage. You are fully visible now, and everything that belongs in your actual life can finally find you. Those things that most people miss entirely. You read beneath the surface of what is being presented to you. You sense the energy underneath the words, the real intention underneath the performance, the truth underneath what someone is working hard to project. Most people call this intuition, but that word undersells it. It is closer to fluency. You are fluent in a language that most people around you do not even know exists. Because of that fluency, you have always been simultaneously more informed and more isolated than the people around you. More informed because you perceive more isolated because what you perceive you often cannot share without being called paranoid or oversensitive or intense. You think in patterns and systems. You see how one dynamic connects to another, how what is happening here mirrors what happened there, how the root of this conflict is actually the same root as that one several situations back. This is not overthinking, this is precision. It is a quality of mind that, when it operates freely and without the noise of suppression, is capable of solving problems and generating insight that other minds simply cannot reach. And that adventurable depth that most people find overwhelming. You do not operate well on the surface of things. Every connection, every idea, every pursuit demands that you go all the way into it or not at all. That intensity has made certain environments feel impossible, and it has made certain relationships feel limiting. It is not a flaw. It is a specification. You were built for depth, because the work you are here to do requires it. You also carry a resilience that is structural rather than performed. It is not the loud declarative kind that announces itself. It is the quiet kind that looks like stillness from the outside, but is actually a core made of something that does not break under sustained pressure. You have been through experiences that should have produced permanent bitterness or total collapse, and the most essential part of you stayed open. It stayed willing to believe something better was possible, even when all visible evidence pointed the other way. That is grace, and it is among the rarest qualities a person can carry through this life. Every person who tried to suppress you, every system that tried to contain you, every circumstance that tried to break you, all of it failed. Not just in the sense of not finishing the job, but in the deeper sense, because everything sent to stop you became material. Every piece of opposition became data, and that data became the specific substance of the strength and discernment you now carry. The betrayal that should have closed your heart permanently taught you how to love with wisdom instead of desperation. The failure that should have ended your ambition showed you what was never aligned with your real purpose to begin with. The person who worked hardest to diminish you revealed precisely which parts of yourself you had been undervaluing. Every obstacle contained its own lesson, and you absorbed every single one. This is what the activated mind does differently from the sleeping one. It does not just endure the hard thing, it extracts from it. It locates the value buried inside the difficult experience, not always immediately, sometimes only visible, looking back, but it finds it, and it reinvests that value into building, rather than into grieving. The opposition did not defeat you, it educated you, and there is no more capable student than the one who has been schooled entirely by fire. Nothing fools that person, because that person has felt what real pressure does and can read the difference between a genuine threat and a performance of one. The distinction between someone who is bitter about a hard past and someone who is powerful because of that same past is not what happened to them, it is entirely what they did with it. Bitterness keeps the wound open and lets it drain energy indefinitely. Power seals the wound, pulls the lesson out clean, and redirects that energy into building what the wound was pointing toward all along. You do not need to be the instrument of correction for everything that was done against you. You do not need to chase outcomes, engineer consequences, or position yourself to witness the fall of what opposed you. That was never your assignment. Your assignment is to build, to expand, and to step fully into what you are here to do. The justice that operates at the level of cause and effect handles itself. What you put into the world returns to you. What gets taken from others returns to them. The math is exact, and it does not require your management to calculate itself correctly. Think honestly about the cost of keeping your focus trained on what was done to you. Every moment spent replaying a betrayal, every mental conversation held with someone who is not present, every plan built around proving someone wrong that requires their acknowledgement to feel complete, that is your energy going into a void that will never return what you are searching for. The most powerful response to everything that tried to stop you is the life you build with the power you reclaimed. It is the fullness of what you become when you stop allowing yourself to be defined by what came against you. It is the legacy that gets built during the time other people spend waiting for apologies that may never arrive. That is the reckoning already in motion. Not what happens to the people who underestimated you, but what happens to you when you permanently stop letting their underestimation set your ceiling. The ceiling is gone. The ceiling is gone. The ceiling installed by the programming, by the people who needed you contained, by the inherited wounds that insisted this is the limit for someone like you. That ceiling no longer exists. The only question remaining is whether you will keep instinctively ducking as if it is still there, out of muscle memory, out of a reflex that protected you from disappointment for so long that it became automatic. Feel how much space there actually is above you now. This is what everything has been building toward. But you are not becoming something new. You are remembering something original. The activation is not the arrival of something foreign. It is the removal of everything that was blocking what was already present. The gifts were always there. The power was always there. The clarity was always there. All of it was buried under the programming, the suppression, the inherited weight, and the editing you performed on yourself to survive environments that were never designed to accommodate someone like you. The excavation is complete, and what is being uncovered is exactly what was always there, finally free to operate without obstruction. Unstuck body is not ego, it is not arrogance, and it is not the cheap performance of confidence that people who have never been truly tested sometimes put on. You are not built for counterfeit. God body is the state of being in which you are so fully aligned with your highest nature, so completely operating from your most awake, most sovereign self, that something larger than your individual circumstances moves through you. Your choices carry weight beyond their immediate consequences. Your words land with a precision you do not always consciously direct. Your presence shifts the energy of whatever space you occupy, and your actions carry a reach you cannot always trace. According to this is not mysticism. This is what happens when a person clears out enough interference, the programming, the suppression, the self-betrayal, the inherited noise, and what remains is a direct and unobstructed signal. A clear channel is capable of things that a blocked channel simply cannot produce. Not because you became supernatural, but because you stopped blocking what was already natural to you. You have already felt previews of this state, moments where you said something and watched it change someone visibly, Moments where you made a decision from deep knowing, and it opened a door that logic said should have been sealed shut. Moments where your presence in a situation altered everything in ways that felt larger than you alone. Those were not flukes. Those were glimpses of the channel running clean, your God body operating through the gaps in the suppression, showing you what becomes consistently available when the obstruction is cleared for good. Living in that state consistently is the work ahead. Not perfectly, because no person operates perfectly, but consistently enough that your default becomes sovereignty rather than contraction, with enough self-awareness to catch yourself when you drift, and enough commitment to return without punishing yourself for the drift, with enough discernment to protect what is now open in you from the dynamics and voices that would cloud it again. Your mind operating at this level of clarity is sharper than it has ever been. Your ability to read beneath surfaces, to sense what is actually happening underneath what is being performed, to see the pattern beneath the chaos, trust that ability completely. It has always been accurate. The times it misdirected you were the times you overrode it with fear, or with the desperate hope that what you sensed was not actually true. When you followed it without overriding it, it was right. It will continue to be right. Your capacity to create, to build, to direct your intention towards specific outcomes, to bring into existence what belongs in your life is fully online now. Creation requires a clean signal. The noise that was jamming yours, the self-doubt, the scarcity inherited from those who came before you, the suppressed power that had been working against itself, has been named, seen, and stripped of its authority. What remains is a signal that, when aimed with full intention and full conviction, moves things. You came into this carrying something heavy, the exhaustion that sleep could not fix, the resistance that felt ancient because it was ancient, the sense that you were fighting something larger than yourself without a clear map of what it was or where it was coming from. The weight is the same weight, the history is the same history, but you are standing inside it as a completely different person. You understand what the weight was, you understand what it was building, you understand that it was not punishment, not evidence that you were broken, and not proof that you were meant for less. It was the curriculum, it was the forge, it was the exact and precise set of conditions required to produce someone capable of doing what you are here to do. What are you here to do? You already know. Some part of you has always known. There is a specific thing, a way you build, a way you lead, a life you live so fully and powerfully that it becomes a beacon for every person your life touches, that only you can do, in the way only you can do it, with the exact combination of gifts and wounds and hard-earned wisdom that you specifically carry. That purpose has been waiting for you with complete certainty that you were coming. You quite kept and been waiting for you. What you carry forward is everything that was always yours, the perception, the structural resilience, the depth, the discernment forged in fire that cannot be replicated by anyone who has not been through what you have been through, and the momentum of a lineage that has a real stake in what you build next. The generations ahead will live differently because of what you choose to do with your activation right now. That is not an abstraction. That is the real and measurable consequence of a person who steps fully and unapologetically into their power. You are not the person who almost did not make it. You are the person who made it, and now understands with complete clarity why every single difficult chapter was necessary. That understanding makes you dangerous. Dangerous to small thinking, dangerous to inherited limitation, dangerous to every dynamic that required your suppression to function. You are free now, fully, permanently, and irreversibly free, though I chart to dodge. Not a suggestion, a charge. Stop editing yourself for environments that were never designed to hold your full size. Stop apologizing for the depth and the intensity and the gifts that make limited people uncomfortable. Stop sending your most valuable energy into managing the reactions of people who have shown you clearly that your suppression is more convenient for them than your power. Told on Orlasak East, expand all the way without asking permission into every corner of what you were built for, into the fullness of your purpose, into the relationships and collaborations and endeavors that can hold the real, unedited, fully activated version of you. The version that was shrinking to survive? That season is finished. The version built across lifetimes of accumulation, refined by every fire, activated and sovereign and fully awake. That version is standing here right now, with divine backing, with ancestral momentum, with the full weight of everything you earned, through everything you endured, behind every step you take from this moment forward. Ordered Palping, you were chosen before you could prove yourself. You carried what most people cannot carry. You survived what was specifically designed to stop you, and you came through, clearer and sharper and more powerful than any version of you that came before. Ordered, that is not coincidence. That is a crown. Wear it.